Should I get us started?
Please do.
Welcome to the comments section, the best part of your week with your two favorite people. I'm Gabe Scherzer.
And I am Larry Flick.
We are here seemingly forever now, been discussing music. It's crazy that we've never actually met in person. I know we've talked about this before, but I always come back to how wild that is.
I know it's weird, right? But it's to me the natural post-COVID era of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you listening to today?
I love me some Joy Aladakun, and she just came back with another absolutely gorgeous song. It
Oh,
is a fun summer vibe. It is called Taking Things for Granted. Came out on April 21st. Give it a listen. She truly never disappoints. And I have such admiration for her and what she's been doing in her career. Not to mention that she's been touring, with my guy John Mayer.
yes. Well, that's a good reason to like her.
Um, give her a listen. You won't regret it. How about you?
So this oh wait, so I'm just putting this. I'm actually, as always, sitting here with my Spotify open and just gonna click and drag this onto a playlist so I don't forget it. So it's taking things for granted, right? That's the
Mhm.
single. Good.
Yeah.
Um, I am listening to. It's been a very country music kind of day. I don't know why. It just has been. I listen to a lot of country music. Um, so I've been bouncing back and forth between the current EP by the Brothers Osborne, who are kind of a sibling duo originally from Maryland. Now they live in Nashville. And they have a great single called "Nobody's Nobody," which is like the idea is kind of meant to be an uplifting song, like nobody's really
Hmm.
all alone in the world. And then I just keep digging into what will be one of my, no doubt, one of my 10 favorite albums of the year. Um, Come Get Your Wife. That's the name of the album by Elle King. First of all, how much do we love that title? Come Get Your Wife.
How much do we love Al King?
How much do we love Elle King? She's a great gal. I've been lucky enough to be kind of acquaintances, industry friends with her from the start, and she's kind of made funk music and pop music and rock music, and so she's finally settled into what she is saying is her true calling, and I believe it to be so, which is kind of outlaw country rock. And the single is called "Lucky," and it's beautiful. It's the name of her firstborn son. Great. And I always say this, and I'll say it again. One of the things I love about country music is not just the purity of the intention of the genre, but also you have to have skill.
Hmm.
This is not bedroom music. This is get together and jam and be in the same room making music together kind of music. And that's for me as a listener, I love that more than anything else. You can't fake chemistry.
No, you cannot.
But all of this that we're talking about here kind of goes into what we are going to dig into as our main topic today, which is the fact that bands are starting to tour again. The last shutdown bastion of the lockdown era is that people are going on the road. Now, it's tough out there for artists who are not at mega level, but there's some, the festivals are back, which is great news. There are obviously the very big tours, Taylor Swift, which is in progress right now, her Eras tour, which is 3.5 hours. That's a lot of Taylor.
Count me out.
I love me some Taylor. That's a long show, dude. I don't know if I could do that. Beyonce is hitting the road now. As much as I don't like Beyonce's most recent music, that's how much I do like Beyonce in concert. She's very good. Um,
Excellent.
so this will be, yeah, and no doubt she'll be doing a lot of her catalog material in addition to her current stuff. And
Oh yeah.
you have Janet Jackson on the road, so you have a lot of
Chili
you know
Peppers are
top.
touring.
Chili Peppers are touring. Thank goodness for that because we love that. Fish are going back on the out on the road as of actually they went out. They started the tour on the 14th of April, and they'll be out through September. Melissa Etheridge is about to go on the road until August. If you like Miss Melissa, let's see who else. Blink 182 is on tour from May 4th through July 16th. I love. Do you like Blink 182? You hate them.
I don't hate them. I don't. I,
You're not a stan though.
I have
Yeah,
no strong.
they're really really great live. I mean, the records are kind of like they get kind of dull after a while because they're pretty all one note, but the shows are great. Ed Sheeran's going out.
I know I'm
Dan
seeing him.
Matthews.
I'm seeing Ed. I'm so excited. My
You're
girlfriend,
going to see Ed Sheeran?
my girlfriend and I are seeing him at MetLife Stadium in July or in June. I can't remember. She keeps track of the dates.
I am so peanut butter and jelly. That's oh my god. Now, have you ever seen him before?
Yeah, she and I saw him at a. I can't remember the name of the place. We saw him at a smaller venue in New York last year, I think, either last year or the year before, which was really
Yeah.
it was really cool to see him in a more intimate setting. I have a feeling that that is the type of show from him that I will prefer, but I am also very well because he's not going out with a band.
He
He's
never tours with the band.
no, he gets his looper machine. He's so freaking talented, and he makes the music right there on the stage. And as someone who dabbles using a looper, I can't express how impressive it is to watch this guy night in and night out create a perfect loop on the first try. It is so much harder than it seems, and he makes it effortless. He makes it seem
It
effortless.
all looks it all looks so hard to me because it just I mean it's I'm so jealous. I mean I've had the enormous privilege of seeing Ed a bunch of times. Plus, when I worked at Sirius XM, he came and did a performance of 5 songs in our studios. Um, he's it's kind of become cool to bag on Ed Sheeran,
Has it?
and yeah, it's one of those like raise them up until they're so big that you have no other choice but to bring them down, which I completely disagree with. And everything I've seen points to him being as nice a guy as he was when I first met him. I was he was in my world as an interview subject for the first 2 albums,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just got too big to get booked on my show. And he was just the coolest guy. And actually, even though when he would come to Sirius and I couldn't get him on my show because he had like instead of having an hour to spend, he would have 10 minutes, and those 10 minutes would be him on the top 40 pop radio show. Um, he'd always hunt me down to shake hands and all of that. He's just a good dude, and I am dying for this new album because he worked on it with the National. The first single from the National sessions is a song called "Boat" that just came out, and it is so good. I stand Ed Sheeran to the end.
You and me both. So very
To
excited
the end.
about that. Um, and it all comes back to this discussion topic today we have, which is about live music.
Yeah.
So couple things I want to get into. But the first one I want to say is who was your introduction to live music?
My introduction was I went to what would be now called a mini festival. It was a multi-act uh, fundraising concert for the anti-nuclear energy organization known as Muse, Musicians for a Safe Environment. This was back in 1978. I was all of like 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at Madison Square Garden. It was 3 nights. I went to two of the 3 nights. And it was a multi-act bill both nights. And it was Bruce Springsteen, Carly Simon, James Taylor, Jackson Brown, Shaka Khan, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. It, it was all Bonnie Raitt, and it was all of these artists at the peak of their power. They were all at Ed Sheeran level in their
Mm-hmm.
careers at that point in the 70s. So it was a hot ticket. But the irony is that I paid $20 a ticket for each show,
Mm.
and it was a life changing. Each of those nights were life changing. I mean, seeing Bruce Springsteen in 1978. Are you kidding me? I,
I
I still remember that.
I can only imagine. I got to see Springsteen 5, 6 years ago, and even that was, I mean, the dude has got energy for it's unbelievable.
It's just, I mean, I've seen Bruce 4 times. He's one of my favorite. I mean, I think that's almost like a cliche to say that, but he's one of my favorite live performers, and I have not seen him in recent years, though I did see him on Broadway,
Mm-hmm.
which was great. It was kind of like the longest unplugged session you've ever seen. It was great. But I saw him on the River tour, and I saw him on the Born in the USA tour.
That's so cool.
Um, yeah, I mean, just what a dude. What a great guy. I've never met him, though.
When I saw
Never met him.
Bruce, he played the River album fully through, start to finish.
You were on that tour. Oh, so
It
jealous.
wasn't the River tour, but he played it. He played the album fully through.
No, because I saw the River tour.
Yeah,
You saw him probably when they reissued the record,
yeah, I guess
and
so.
he went out and did just like I'm playing the River album, which to me is one of his most perfect
Oh,
recordings.
it's his best album as far as I'm concerned. Um,
It's
so
a tight it's a tight tie with Darkness on the Edge of Town.
yeah, I could see that. So who is on your Mount
So
Rushmore?
wait, no, wait. Before you ask that, what was your show?
Oh yeah. So I am so lucky that I can say this, but my first show was the Eagles at Madison Square Garden.
Love the Eagles. Now, do you remember what tour that was? Was that Hell Freezes
It
Over?
was the Hell Freezes Over tour.
That was a great tour.
And the
I
name of
saw that tour. That was a great tour.
it was awesome. The name of the tour, of course, comes from the fact that they were asked if they had broken up for a while and they were asked if they would ever get back together. And the response was, yeah, when Hell Freezes over. And so
Yeah.
the tour was awesome. I was too young to really appreciate it fully, but I remember it being incredible. I remember loving how many guitarists they had at once. Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
it
They
was
were all
awesome.
about the excess and the flash and all of that. So good. Even though most of those guys were kind of dirtbags as humans. Um, it doesn't matter because they made the sweetest, most sensitive music.
Mhm.
Um, I got to work very briefly with Glenn Fry early in my career when I told you that I once worked on the Miami Vice soundtrack albums
I forgot about that.
in my very first job, and so we had Glenn on. I think it was the second one. You belong to the city.
Wow.
What a dude! Nice dude. Nice dude. Troubled, but aren't they all? Um, Eagles. That's good. That's good.
Eagles is
Actually, being
good.
kind of
Yeah.
so our first. It's funny because our both of our first concert experiences are from that same kind of SoCal rock genre,
And at the Garden.
and at the Garden. Yeah. How cool. Yeah. All right. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you though. What was your
No, no,
question
it's
there to
fine.
me?
So my question is, who is on your Mount Rushmore of live performers? And
Oh, that's a
this
great question.
this can be either ones that you've seen in person or seen recordings of. But your Mount Rushmore live performance, give me like four or five if you can.
Four? Okay. That's not that hard actually. It would be Bruce.
Mhm.
Not having Bruce on the Mount Rushmore of live performers is sacrilegious, in my opinion. Um, Tom Petty,
Mm.
who I saw three different times on three different tours. Um, it's funny because he was never the most animated live performer, but there was just something about experiencing his songs coming to life in the same room that was unbelievably moving to me because his songs have always meant a lot to me.
Mhm.
So to be there and hear it live and hear the improvs and the guitar solos and all those things, just yes. Then um, it would have to be Stevie Nicks, whom I've seen on stage more than I think any other artist because I've seen her start with Fleetwood Mac like 7 times, and I saw her solo like almost 20 times. I mean, I'm like a stan.
Mhm.
And, I mean, she's like pushing 70, so she's not jumping around anymore. But in her day, she was quite the magnetic performer, and acrobatic and danced around. And she was just a very compelling, connective artist for someone who was really committed to the mystique of it all. Um, she was also very intimate, which is very rare because most of the time when an artist is committed to like an image and an idea, like, they kind of lose a bit of that. There's like a wall oftentimes,
Mhm.
but not with her. She's a very, very audience driven, very audience connected artist. And even now, I think, like I said, I think she's like 72 or something ridiculous like that. She can still bring it. She just, you know, she's an
She
old lady. She's an old lady. Let's just say it. She's an old lady with great hair. And she's not jumping up and down anymore, but she can still bring it. And then I think I'm going to use a duo as my fourth.
Okay.
And it's going to probably be surprising, but it would be Indigo Girls.
Really?
Oh my goodness gracious, I love them. And I think the only artist I've seen as almost as many times as Stevie would be Indigo Girls. And it's partly because I was very lucky very early in their career, before they were famous, to be friends with them. When I was a college journalist and they were putting out indie records before they got signed to a major, I would write about them and then I interviewed them and got invited to loads of shows and showcases and and we have kept in touch over the years. And every time there's a show of theirs in whatever town I'm in, I go, and they're like Ed Sheeran in that they very often perform with no band or sometimes like a drummer or a bass player, and they fill the room. I've seen them at places like Radio City Music Hall in Madison Square Garden, fill the room with just like two acoustic guitars
Wow.
and no pedals because their music doesn't really allow for it. I've seen them with bands. I've seen them do orchestral tours. I've seen them. I mean, and they are so good, and they're so audience can like they're the audience and them are like it becomes like a romance. It becomes like the best intimate sex you've ever had. Like you leave and you're just like, oh, that was good. You need a cigarette and a sandwich.
A cigarette and a
And
sandwich.
cigarette and a sandwich. And the thing is, as I'm saying that, there are other bands I would put like on a secondary. Mount Rushmore, but that'll be later. I want to hear what yours are because I've been lucky. I've had a lifetime of concerts, and I've
Absolutely.
toured with bands. But don't forget, I've spent a lot of time on the road myself with bands. Ironically, none of the bands I toured with would be bands I would put on the
Mhm.
Mount Rushmore.
You know too much. You've seen too many things.
You've seen how the sausage is made, right?
Yeah.
So what would yours be?
Yeah, I love your list. My Mount Rushmore of live performers. Number one, you already said it, Bruce Springsteen. I mean, what else can you say? His ability to get a crowd on their feet, to get a crowd loud was incredible, still is incredible. The dude's energy is infectious. Bruce Springsteen is number one. Number two, this was actually the second or third concert I ever saw. Um, and hugely influenced by Bruce and Bruce's stage presence is Chris Martin of Coldplay.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the guy has got charisma for days, and he lays it all on the line. He is losing pounds of weight performing. He's sweating. They've got they've painted pianos and coordinating lighting effects in the crowd, and he got Bruce's he got Bruce's conversations with the crowd. um so Chris Martin and Coldplay is definitely.
And just, but do you ever notice how he writes things on his arm and his hands, like things that he needs to remember during his shows?
No, I
When
never.
you look at a video, every once in a while you'll see he's got things scrawled on his forearm.
I
I
didn't.
never noticed it. I'm going to be honest with you. I never noticed it. I picked that up from a Rolling Stone piece where the journalist noted that. Yeah.
Well, it's little moments of connection. Like, they are huge in Brazil, and when he does a show there, he will like he'll learn a couple of stock phrases in Spanish, or whether it be Spanish, Portuguese, like whatever. Forgive me, I'm not actually, I'm blanking on the number one language there, but and just little things like that, so that he, regardless of where he is, he can form an instant connection with the audience. I think is so cool. My number three has got to be Flea and the Chili Peppers in general, because uh, they're fucking crazy, and I absolutely love it. I like when you have a visual component of live performance. Bands do it differently. Like Coldplay, for instance, does like a lot of paint and a lot of lighting. The Grateful Dead will have a lot of psychedelic visuals, but with the Chili Peppers, it's not even really needed, because these guys are, you can't take your eyes off them because they're just bouncing around. And Flea, you get the sense that he would play this same with the same intensity, whether he was in his room or whether he was on a stage in front of 100,000 people. You know what I mean? So Bruce Springsteen, number one, Chris Martin and Coldplay, number two, Flea and Chili Peppers, number three, number four, Prince, because freaking Prince, he's too cool and is too talented on so many different instruments, that he can perform in front of so many different audiences and just get them moving. I think he, more than almost anyone, can really get a crowd to groove, which I think is awesome. Um, Number five, BB King, because this man would have full on conversations with the crowd and would actually wait for responses. I mean, some people will like say things to the crowd, but then kind of be in their own head. This guy he would wait and he would say, "No, I don't, ladies and gentlemen." And then it wasn't loud enough. "I'm sorry. I thought I said ladies and gentlemen."
But he's so good. He was a king. He was the king of kings.
The king.
Really, just so great, so great.
Um,
So, so what would you say? was talked about the first show, but what would you say was the show that was so important or so good or so transcendent? I mean, something bigger than your favorite show ever, but something that just cut deeper. Like you left the venue and you were just like, I will never see a show like that again, ever.
So, Global Citizens Festival on the Great Lawn in Central Park. I think it was 2013, 2012, something like
Mm.
that. I went to see Alicia Keys. Um, but in walking from and Stevie Wonder, but in walking around the venue, I heard the opening riff to Gravity by Mr. John Mayer.
Oh no. And is that how it started?
That is how it all started because I've never had an experience where a completely unknown to me, I didn't know who he was at that time. And so I remember the exact feeling of turning and saying, "Holy shit, what is that?" And I've been hooked ever since. Um, and that was so cool, profoundly cool, because it wasn't expected. I wasn't going to see him. I was going to see all these other people. And I came out of it liking one more than all the others that I hadn't even heard of. And that's the power of live music. It can surprise you. Um, and that was awesome in terms of like the highest quality musicianship I've seen in concert. It's got to be Tedeschi Trucks Band. It's got to be. They do not fuck around. They do not miss. They are astounding, and I've been lucky enough to see them a number of times. And yeah, how about
Those
you?
are good. Those are good. I heard about that global festival. Everyone I know who was there thought it was an unexpected thrill because
Yeah,
it didn't get the greatest pre-sale.
no.
Um, it was received very cynically
Mm-hmm.
in the media. I remember, and then people came back and said, "Holy smoke, you missed it," because I didn't go. I was supposed to go, and I decided not to.
Oh, we could have
Um,
met.
we could have met. We could have met. We could have been fanboys at the stage door.
Mm-hmm.
But the I will never forget the most profound concert experience I ever went to was at Radio City Music Hall, first show in New York, first major show in New York after 9/11. It was the band Travis, and it was a show that almost got canceled. I think it was something like 3 or 4 weeks after 9/11. And I went with a really, really close friend of mine who loved the band Travis as much as I did, and I still do. And it was one of those things where people were terrified, and security was next level insane. Um, I mean, things have calmed down considerably since then, but it was wow, it was incredible. And because I worked in the music business, and I was also and still am friends with Fran Healy, the lead singer, we had great seats, like fifth row center, perfection. Um, and you could see the band come out, and they were terrified because they didn't know what was going to happen. And he actually said into the mic, "We're all here because we want to be. So let's just all hold each other up and hold each other if you want to, and be together." And they played like, I mean, I've seen Travis play a bunch of times. They're a great band live, but an unremarkable band live, if that makes sense. They're very proficient, the songs are just incredible, but they're just as good. They're not that different live than they are in concert. This time they were different. I don't know why. They just played with a different kind of passion because everybody was frightened but defiant and emotional. And if you know anything about the music of Travis, you know that the songs are already very vulnerable and, emotionally driven. And so just the entire night were just people, strangers grabbing each other's hands and crying and singing. And I was there with my friend, and he just was like in pieces after the second song. And I remember we, took advantage of my job and went backstage, and Fran just was sitting in a corner crying because it was such an emotional experience for him. And just, I remember every second of that night because it was a show that almost didn't happen. And to be there with, we were all there because we were just like, we were not going to miss our band, and the band wasn't going to miss their people. And it was just exceptional. Now, in terms of proficiency, that technical agility live, it would have to be Prince. I've never experienced a show um, where there was such technical perfection and yet so much fluid soul. Ever. The fact that he could replicate, the studio quality of his music on stage and know exactly where and when to expand the notes or add a riff or just broaden it and make it more kind of um, just more alive. I've never seen anyone do it with that kind of ease. Usually you either have someone who is really capable of just tearing it up live, right? Like Bruce. Bruce just tears it up live. You don't go to a Springsteen show hoping to hear studio quality performances. You go hearing the rawness. Um, but he could give you rawness. Prince could give you the rawness, but he could also give you like perfection. Do you know what I mean? And I saw Prince. I actually saw Prince at the Bottom Line nightclub in New York City. That's how old I am. For the Dirty Mind tour, back when he used to perform in panties and fishnets and a trench, and even then, perfection, like note for note perfection. So yeah, the agility of what he could do was just I don't even think Michael Jackson could do that live. You know,
Shout out to Prince.
shout out to Prince, R.I.P. Prince. So where do you think, though, with all this technology that we have now, what do we do? Um, how does it change the live experience? And I ask that because toward the end of last year, I saw the ABBA show here in London, and that's all. It's all computer generated. Now they had a live band playing off on the side, but most of it was computer generated. And I'm here to tell you that the technology was not the same as the technology that the Whitney Houston people used or that the Tupac people used, where it felt like you were watching a slideshow. This was it was like they're standing there, and it felt live, it sounded live, they looked like people, everything about it was tangible. And they did it they do that show 3 times a day because it's a tight 90 minutes. They don't have to worry about regenerating the energy of the performers. All they really have to do is clear the house, clean it, and refill it. And they do that three. On the weekends, they do it four. So how does that change the live concert experience when you could just send someone out?
Well, I think it turns it into more like a going to see a movie type of situation. I don't think that I don't think it's different, you know, it's undeniably not the same as actually seeing people in person. Um I think it's a great idea for a movie theater. You know, I went this year and saw every year the Grateful Dead have a meetup at the movies where they film a live show in front at a movie theater in front of an audience. They show it like an old recording. I think that that's great. Um, uh, but I think it's good for honoring people who may have been gone too soon. But I do not like the idea of it being overutilized. I do not like the idea that people can avoid going, that artists can would avoid going on tour and send, you know, a virtual version of themselves in place. That kind of that gets to me a little bit, you know.
But to me, it feels like someone somewhere is exploring that option.
Of course.
You know, because if you and here's the thing, the AVA tickets cheaper than going to a regular show,
Mm-hmm.
right?
As
You
they
get
should
the
be.
you get the Taylor Swift show, and it's $300, and you're not going to get laser sharp precision. You're just going to get the live show,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go to the ABBA show, the top ticket price, we paid the top ticket price. It was like 150 pounds, like $200. And it had the banter. It wasn't like watching AI. It felt like you were in the room with human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two things that came to mind after I saw it. First of all, it was far better than I thought it was going to be because I went kind of excited to see it, but I went also kind of feeling cynical because a friend of mine who saw it before me said, "You're going to cry," and I'm like, "I'm not going to cry. It's a hologram." Third song in, I was in tears.
Wow.
Um, because it created like this time capsule like experience of something that I didn't get to experience, but gave me the chance to go back and be my 17-year-old self or my
Mm-hmm.
14-year-old self or my 22-year-old self and be that person for an hour and a half with because they didn't look like the current versions of themselves, they look like the old versions of themselves. And so I thought, okay, well, how soon until yeah, I mean, isn't sending out a hologram the next level up from people doing Vegas residencies, right? That's why you have big touring artists, big pop music touring artists like Adele and for a long time Britney Spears and Elton John and all those people just saying, you know what, I'm gonna plop my ass down here for 6 months or a year. Come to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is the next version of that, right? It's the next version of saying, well, you know what? I can't tour because I have children, I have a bad back, I have whatever issues. You don't want to come to Vegas? All right, I'll send out a version of me that will allow you to have the experience. And I'll do something like what Janet Jackson does, because Janet Jackson, God bless her cotton socks, has never sung live. You know what she does, right? She records the entire show vocally, including ad libs and "Hello Cleveland" and all that stuff, and then she just mimes it the
Mm-hmm.
entire. It's just none of it's live. So how soon till we get that? Now the other side of that equation is: would you pick your favorite band that you never got to see live, where the key person is no longer with us? Would you go see it?
I think
Right?
I
Like if I said
would.
to you, you can go see. One last time, classic legacy lineup of Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Where'd you go? If I said to you, if someone said to me, you can go see Nirvana, who, even though I could have gone to their shows, I didn't for whatever reason. I think now that I've experienced the ABBA show, I think I'd go.
I think I would go, but I would have reservations about it. I do have reservations. The more you were talking, the more I'm like, you know what, this is a really cool thing. Like if I could actually get close to seeing to what it would have been like to see Stevie Ray Vaughan play guitar live, like that would be awesome. It would take me some time to get around the idea because so much of a concert is that connection and that feeling like you and the artist are in the same place. You know what I mean? You and the artist are in the same place, experiencing it at the same time. I know that not everyone is like that with music, but that's a big part of live shows for me. Uh, I totally would go. It almost feels like a new age, like a laser light show almost. You know what I mean? It's like, and that is a cool thing to go and experience. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't like go to I wouldn't pay hundreds of dollars to see it to go to, MetLife Stadium to see a hologram or something like that. I wouldn't do that. Um, for me, it would have to be like a specialty thing. Like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is doing these shows and they're, come and see, tonight is hologram Jerry Garcia. Next is hologram Stevie Ray Vaughan. I would go to something like that on a smaller stage. Um, but where I get issue with it is when the idea of hologram Elton John is going on tour. That feels like a money grab to me.
Well, yeah, anything Elton John does is a money grab. All right, so as we bring this in for a landing,
Yeah.
one last question. Well, you already mentioned that you have tickets to see Ed Sheeran, but who's left on your list of people you need to see in concert?
I have never seen the Chili Peppers live. I need to.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, my friend, you're missing out. They're amazing live.
I know. Well, they're on my I've seen plenty of videos. They're on my Mount Rushmore, but I've never gotten to experience it.
Oh, yeah. It's a very special experience. It is. It is. I think for me, it would need to be see, the thing is, I feel like I've seen everybody I want to see live. So it's more like, who would I like to see one more time?
Mhm.
And I think the one more time would be, see, I asked you the question without having my own answer. How about that?
Mhm.
I think my one more time would be to see um, Tim McGraw live because he, again, first of all, there's nothing like live country music because it sounds amazing. It is rooted in R&B, grassroots music, but there's also a strong rock and roll element. And having seen him live before, his voice is actually stronger live,
Mhm.
which is very weird to me, but it is. His voice is much, much stronger live. And he's unusually funny, which you don't get when you listen to his music or look at his media. So I think I'd like to see something like that. I'd like to see something, but I'm also really kind of keen on, like, I'm not really interested in arenas anymore because I've been to them so many times and now they just feel exhausting. So I'm excited to just see like small things, small places, you know. That's
Mhm.
really what my hope is. But there you have it. Yeah.
There you have it, folks.
Yeah.
You want
Another
to?
episode.
Why don't you ring us out, Larry?
I'll ring you.
Ready
All
for a
right.
nap.
Well, what's that?
Ready for a nap?
You ready for a nap? Well, you go take a nap, and I'll say I'm going to go eat my dinner. And remind you that we love hearing from you. Hit us up on social media at Gabe Scherzer, at Larry Flick, and And in fact, I am Larry Flick, and you are.
I am Gabe Scherzer.
And we'll be back next time on the comment section.
Thanks for listening.